Hello, hello. Unfortunately, it has been a long time since I have last seen you. I've just been so busy with school. One of the things that they don't tell you about college is that you don't really have a summer vacation because you're meant to be doing something during the summer as well, which totally sucks. There are so many books out there that I haven't read, and I know that if I read them at some point, I will grow to love them and they will probably end up on the list of my favorite books ever. However, there's only so many books that I can read. And so currently, these are my favorite books of all time and probably the books I recommend the most out of everything I've ever read. I don't have many credentials other than I am a literature and writing student. There isn't much to say other than I think you should read these books. I think some of these might be objectively the best books of all time. Do I have any right in saying that? Absolutely not. However, I just love these books with my whole soul. So without further ado, here they are. The first book I have here for you is In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. This is a memoir based on the author's life, which is what a memoir is, about their experience in an abusive relationship. There are a lot of anecdotes from their childhood until the time that this book was published, and there's something very unique about this book and that its format, the way that it's written. Each chapter, which is usually only a couple of pages, is titled The Dream House as something. So for example, this one is The Dream House as Man versus Self, or The Dream House as Word Problem. It's one of the most unique memoirs I've ever read, and I love the author's writing and prose style. It's just a very heartbreaking read and very poetically crafted in the author's distinct style, which was very just interesting in general. I think that my explanation isn't doing enough justice for how mesmerizing this novel is. So just reading the blurb on the back, it says it's an electrifying account of a relationship gone bad and a bold dissection of the mechanisms and cultural representations of psychological abuse, which I feel like wraps up what this memoir is very distinctly. And just in general, like, there are so many allusions to fairy tales or very popular fiction and film, which is just very interesting to read in connection to what is going on in the author's life at that point. And I also really like the same author's different work. It's called Her Body and Other Parties. Short story collection is also amazing as well. If you like this, you should definitely check that one out too. I just don't think that I can recommend this enough. The next book I have here for you is none other than The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I don't think this video would be complete without me talking about how much I love this book. So basically, on the first page, you find out that these group of friends have murdered one of their classmates, and his name is Bunny, and the novel unravels how that came to be. It is full of pretentiousness, dark academia, comments about elitism. It is also based on the author's life, which is very interesting. Not directly, I mean, unless she's murdered her friends and we don't know. This is set in a college in Vermont, and the author also went to Bennington College, which is in Vermont, and she was friends with the same person who wrote American Psycho. So it's very interesting to read, and it also has an interesting backstory, which, I don't know, it's a psychological thriller. It's also what introduced me to my love for Latin. It's very entertaining. There's not much else to say. I'm sure you've heard of this. It was very popular ever since it was published in the 90s, and rightfully is getting the credit that it deserves. One thing I will say is that I have scoured everywhere for the British copy of the cover, because as much as I love this novel, I just don't like this edition. And I would love to have the UK edition. And all these annotations are from 2020. I need to reread this as quickly as possible. Another favorite book of mine is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. I think I've talked about this book on here before. This is about a young American who goes to Paris in the 1950s, and he falls in love with an Italian bartender. And this novel details their relationship. That's kind of the whole premise of the story. It's obviously a lot more complicated than that, but I do love this novel so much, and Baldwin's writing is exquisite. I think if you were to take only one recommendation from this whole video, it should be Giovanni's Room, because there's something in here for everyone. It's also fairly a quick read. I think it's only like 160 pages, but it's packed with so much, which makes it so very lovely. The next book I have is also a favorite movie of mine, and that's Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. As you can see, I adored this book so much, especially the cool girl monologue. It's one of my favorites, differed from the movie, which is very interesting. This is a murder mystery, I guess, question mark, novel. It details Amy Dunn, who who has disappeared on her anniversary, and her husband is thought to have killed her because of the crime scene and their very messy relationship. This is set right after the recession, and basically the story unravels as you find out who killed Amy Dunn and what happened to her. I can't say much else without giving away big plot twists and story points, but it's a very slow start and it takes some time to get into it, but once you do, I just could not put it down. I also think that the cultural influence of this novel is pretty big, and so if you want to understand the hype, you should just give it a try. So the next book that I have is actually a collection of poetry, and I've read so many collections in my life, but nothing compares to Savannah Brown's writing. This is Sweet Dark by Savannah Brown. Again, not much to say, it's just a poetry collection, but the way that this is written is indescribable. Every time I would read a poem, I'd be like, this is my new favorite one, and then I'd read the next and I'd be like, no, this is it. There's so much to dissect in every single poem. You can tell when you're reading it that so much effort and work and just thought-provoking concepts were placed into this small bit of writing, and it's just so delicious, which feels kind of weird to say, but I feel like I was devouring every poem as I read it. It just was so satisfying to read, and every time I go back and read it, I notice something else that's brand new, and I'm like, oh my god, how did I not notice this before? Or it has a different meaning every time you read it. I also like Graffiti by Savannah Brown, but this seems a lot more thorough than her previous works. Savannah Brown has talked about it herself, about how the first was kind of like conjoined together very quickly, but you can tell that this was just very time consuming in its creation. The one last recommendation I have for you today is none other than The Idiot by Elif Batuman. I love this book. I live this book. I laugh this book. Live, laugh, love The Idiot. This is about a second-generation Turkish immigrant who is attending Harvard. It's her first year, and she becomes obsessed with a classmate named Ivan who's much older than her. It's about her experiences learning Russian and then going to Hungary for some time. Hungary? I feel like I'm saying that wrong, but she ends up going to Europe for the summer. Not a lot happens, but so much happens at the same time. You get a lot of internal dialogue. There's a lot of email exchange, which is also really interesting to read about. The main character is loosely based on the author's life, which, if you can't guess, I love it when authors do that. It makes the story a lot more authentic, in my opinion. Also, the main character is just so me. She's just so me, and that may be a bit of a problem, but it's okay. I think in general it's very relatable with its touches on adolescence and how you're transitioning from being considered a child into an adult when you're in college and everything is changing and you're trying to keep up with everything and trying to figure out what you want to do and what you like. I could not recommend this book enough. I just love it so much, and I talk about it all the time. I think out of everything that I've recommended, my top 3 books are The Secret History, In the Dream House, and The Idiot. So yes, please, I implore you to pick up one of these books if you thought they appeared interesting in my descriptions of them, my very poor descriptions. I find it very hard to talk about the topics that I love because it's a conjoinment of so many things, and it's like, where do I unravel my thoughts and express them in any way? But regardless, thank you for visiting me on this corner of the internet, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.